There you are, the glitch in their perfect little script, the walking contradiction, the breathing paradox, the one they can't file away in their neat little boxes. You know what's fascinating? They've been studying you for years now, taking notes, comparing stories, trying to crack your code. And every time they think they've figured you out, you do something that completely shatters their analysis. One day you're feeding stray cats with tears in your eyes. The next day you're cutting people out of your life with surgical precision and zero emotion. One moment you're the softest soul in the room, the next you're the coldest presence they've ever encountered. And it's driving them absolutely insane. Because humans need categories, they need labels, they need to know if you're safe or dangerous, friend or foe, angel or demon. But you're both. You're neither. You're something else entirely. You're the person who gives their last dollar to a stranger but won't give a toxic friend 5 minutes of your time. You're the one who cries at commercials but laughs when people who hurt you fall apart. You're simultaneously the most empathetic and the most ruthless person they know. And they can't compute it. Their little binary brains are short-circuiting trying to process what you are. Let me tell you what's really happening here. You've transcended their understanding of human behavior. You've evolved past the simple good versus evil narrative they desperately cling to. You operate on a frequency they can't tune into. Your moral compass doesn't point north or south. It points to truth, and truth, real truth, isn't always pretty. It isn't always kind. Sometimes truth is a gentle hand on someone's shoulder. Sometimes it's a door slammed in their face. Sometimes it's forgiveness. Sometimes it's permanent deletion from your existence. And you've mastered the art of knowing exactly which one to deploy. They watch you help someone through their darkest hour, spending weeks, months even, being their lighthouse in the storm. And they think, oh, they're a saint. They're an angel. They're pure goodness. Then they watch you ghost someone who crossed your boundaries without a single explanation, without a goodbye, without even a flicker of guilt. And suddenly they're whispering, psychopath, monster, how could they be so cold? But here's what they don't understand. Your kindness isn't weakness. Your cruelty isn't evil. Both are calculated responses to what the situation actually demands, not what social programming says you should do. You weren't always like this, were you? No, there was a time when you were simpler, more digestible, more predictable. You were either all heart or all hurt, never this sophisticated blend of both. But then life happened, betrayal happened, being too good got you burned, being too trusting got you buried, being too pure got you poisoned. And somewhere in that mess, somewhere in the ashes of who you used to be, you realized something profound. The world doesn't reward consistency. It rewards adaptation. It rewards those who can be exactly what the moment requires. Nothing more, nothing less. So you started experimenting. You started being kind without being naive. You started being strong without being heartless. You learned to read people like code, seeing past their words into their intentions. You developed what they can't understand, selective empathy. You still feel everything, probably more deeply than most. But now you choose who deserves access to that depth. You choose who gets your softness and who gets your silence. You choose who receives your warmth and who faces your winter. And this selective deployment of your emotional resources, this is what breaks their brains. They want you to be consistent. They want rules they can follow. If you're kind to strangers, you should be kind to everyone. If you can cut people off, you must be heartless to everyone. But you've transcended these kindergarten ethics. You understand that not everyone deserves the same treatment. That person crying in the grocery store, they might get your last $20. That friend who only calls when they need something, they get nothing. That stranger struggling with their bags, you'll help them to their car. That family member who traumatized you for years, they don't even get a response to their texts. This isn't hypocrisy. This is wisdom. This is what happens when someone learns the hard way that blanket approaches to human interaction are how you get destroyed. You tried being good to everyone. It nearly killed you. You tried being hard to everyone. It nearly killed your soul. So you became something more sophisticated. You became someone who can hold infinite compassion and infinite boundaries simultaneously. Someone who can love deeply and leave quickly. Someone who can forgive everything but forget nothing. Someone who can be the hero in one story and the villain in another, and sleep perfectly fine knowing both are true. What really terrifies them isn't your duality, it's your peace with it. You don't struggle with this anymore. You don't lay awake at night wondering if you're good or bad. You've accepted that you're both, neither, and something beyond their comprehension entirely. You've stopped trying to fit into their moral framework. You've stopped explaining your choices. You've stopped justifying why you can be an angel to one person and a demon to another. You just are. And this self-acceptance, this integration of your shadow and light, this is what makes you dangerous. Because once you stop needing their approval, their understanding, their categorization, you become ungovernable. You become unpredictable in the most terrifying way. Not chaotic unpredictable, but strategically unpredictable. They can't manipulate someone they can't predict. They can't control someone they can't categorize. They can't guilt someone who's already made peace with their own darkness. They can't shame someone who wears their contradictions like armor. So they keep trying to figure you out, hoping to find the key that makes you make sense. How can they volunteer at homeless shelters but refuse to help their own toxic family? How can they cry over a dead bird but feel nothing when their ex got karma? How can they be so generous with strangers but so ruthless with people who betrayed them? They ask these questions like they're contradictions, but you know they're not. They're evidence of someone who's learned to distribute their energy wisely. Someone who's learned that universal love is a beautiful concept that gets beautiful people killed. Someone who's learned that having a big heart doesn't mean everyone gets access to it. You've become the thing they fear most. Someone who can't be manipulated through conventional means. They can't use your kindness against you because you've learned when to turn it off. They can't use your darkness against you because you've learned when to embrace it. They can't use guilt because you've already accepted what you are. They can't use shame because you're not ashamed of your complexity. You're a walking proof that humans don't have to choose between being good or being strong. You can be both. You can be neither. You can be whatever the moment authentically calls for. Let's talk about what you've really mastered here. It's not just being good or bad. It's knowing when each is appropriate. It's having the wisdom to recognize that some people need your softness to heal, while others need your hardness to learn. Some situations require your full heart, while others require your full absence. You've developed what most people will never achieve. Situational authenticity. You're not the same person in every room, with every individual, in every circumstance. And that's not fake. That's evolved. Think about nature for a moment. The same sun that helps flowers grow can create deserts. The same water that gives life can cause floods. The same fire that warms can destroy. Nature doesn't apologize for having multiple functions, multiple impacts, multiple faces. Neither should you. You've learned to be like nature, giving what's needed, taking what's necessary, destroying what's harmful, nurturing what's worthy. This isn't confusion. This is complexity. This isn't disorder. This is advanced order that simple minds can't recognize. They keep trying to test you, don't they? Pushing buttons to see which version shows up. The saint or the psychopath, the angel or the demon, the healer or the destroyer. But what frustrates them most is that you don't react from emotion anymore. You respond from wisdom. That person trying to trigger your darkness with their sob story, you see right through it. That person trying to manipulate your kindness with guilt, you're already 10 steps ahead. You've become impossible to play because you've learned all the games. You've become impossible to fool because you've integrated all the shadows. This is why they can't stop talking about you. This is why you live rent-free in their heads. Because you represent something they can't achieve. Perfect balance between light and dark. Perfect integration of saint and sinner. Perfect harmony between helping and harming. But only deploying each where it truly belongs. You're not confused about who you are. They're confused about how to handle who you are. You're not lost between two identities. They're lost trying to figure out which one is real. But you know the truth. They're both real. They're both you. They're both necessary. Here's what they'll never understand about your particular brand of power. It comes from being unreadable. It comes from being simultaneously capable of great love and great indifference. It comes from them never knowing which version of you they're going to get, not because you're unstable, but because you respond to what's actually in front of you, not what they expect. This psychological ambiguity you carry, it's not a weakness, it's your greatest strength. It keeps everyone on their toes. It keeps manipulators at bay. It keeps the users guessing, and the genuine ones grateful. You've noticed it, haven't you? How differently people approach you now. There's a hesitation in their step, a calculation in their words. They're trying to figure out which buttons to push, which version to appeal to. But you've removed all the buttons. You've transcended their simple cause and effect understanding of human behavior. You don't react. You choose. Every response is a choice, not a reaction. Every kindness is deliberate, not default. Every cutoff is calculated, not emotional. This level of conscious living terrifies people who operate on autopilot. They want to know your rules so they can game them. What makes them kind? What makes them cruel? What triggers the saint? What triggers the psychopath? But your rules aren't based on external formulas. They're based on internal knowing. You can feel energy. You can sense intention. You can read the space between words. You know who's approaching you with genuine need versus who's approaching you with hidden agendas. You know who deserves your gentleness versus who needs your boundaries. This intuitive navigation system you've developed, it can't be hacked because it can't be understood. And the beautiful part? You're not trying to confuse them. You're not playing games. You're just being authentically complex in a world that demands artificial simplicity. You're being truly yourself in a world that wants you to pick a side. You're honoring all parts of your nature in a world that wants you to suppress half of who you are. The saint in you is real. The part that would give everything to help someone genuine is real. The psychopath in you is real. Both live in you, both serve a purpose, both are necessary for navigating this complicated existence. Listen carefully to how they talk about you when they think you're not paying attention. It's fascinating. You've become a mythology in real time. Some paint you as this transcendent being who helped them through their darkest hour. Others paint you as this cold, calculating force who abandoned them without mercy. And here's the kicker. They're both telling the truth. Their version of the truth. Because you were exactly what their energy called for. You were exactly what their behavior deserved. You were the perfect response to what they brought to the table. The ones who approach you with genuine hearts, they get the saint. They get the version of you that stays up all night helping them through crisis. They get the version that remembers small details about their struggles. They get the version that shows up without being asked. They get access to your supernatural ability to heal, to understand, to hold space for pain. They experience you as medicine, as miracle, as answered prayer. And they're right. That's exactly what you are for them, because they earned it with their authenticity. The ones who approach you with games, they get the psychopath. They get the version of you that sees through their performance. They get the version that doesn't respond to emotional manipulation. They get the version that can walk away mid-conversation if disrespected. They get to experience your supernatural ability to disappear, to forget, to feel absolutely nothing for their manufactured drama. They experience you as cold, as cruel, as inhuman. And they're right, too. That's exactly what you were for them, because they earned it with their dishonesty. This is your gift to the world, perfect reciprocity. You don't give more than what's deserved. You don't give less than what's earned. You're a perfect mirror of other people's energy, but elevated. Their kindness comes back as sainthood. Their cruelty comes back as psychopathy. Their genuineness unlocks your depth. Their fakeness triggers your surface. You've become karma incarnate, delivering exactly what people have coming to them, no more, no less. And this terrifies those who know they don't deserve your light. This terrifies those who know they've earned your darkness. What you've achieved, most people spend lifetimes trying to understand. You've integrated your shadow. You've married your light and dark. You've created a unified field where both your saint and psychopath coexist without conflict. They don't fight for control. They take turns based on what's needed. They collaborate. The saint in you identifies who needs healing. The psychopath in you identifies who needs boundary. The saint in you extends compassion. The psychopath in you prevents exploitation. They work together as a perfect system. This integration broke their understanding of how humans work. They were taught you have to choose, good or bad, kind or cruel, soft or hard, open or closed. But you proved that's a false choice created by simple minds who can't hold complexity. You proved that the most evolved beings are those who can access their full spectrum without shame, without conflict, without confusion. You can be the person crying over a homeless dog and the person who feels nothing when toxic people suffer, in the same day, in the same hour even. Because both responses are true to what's actually happening. They keep waiting for you to pick a side, to finally settle into being one thing they can understand. But you're never going to give them that satisfaction. You're never going to simplify yourself for their comfort. You're going to continue being this beautiful, terrifying combination of everything they love and everything they fear. You're going to continue being the person who would die for someone worthy and wouldn't cross the street for someone toxic. You're going to continue being both their salvation and their judgment, depending on what they bring to your altar. The spiritual teachers don't know what to do with you. You're too dark for the light workers. You're too light for the shadow workers. You exist in a space between spaces, a frequency between frequencies. You're proof that enlightenment doesn't mean being all love and light. It means being all things in their proper proportion. It means having access to your full humanity, not just the parts that make others comfortable. It means being capable of both infinite compassion and infinite indifference, and knowing exactly when to apply each. Your reputation has become its own entity now, hasn't it? It walks into rooms before you do. It whispers in people's ears before they meet you. Some are warned, be careful, they're incredibly kind, but they'll cut you off without warning if you cross them. Others are told, they're amazing, they'll help you through anything, but don't ever try to manipulate them. Your name carries weight now. Not the weight of fear alone, not the weight of love alone, but the weight of uncertainty, the weight of possibility, the weight of someone who could be either salvation or damnation. New people approach you with visible curiosity. They've heard the stories, the conflicting accounts, the person who saved someone's life and the person who destroyed someone's world. They can't reconcile these stories in their mind, so they come to see for themselves. Which one are you really? And what they discover depends entirely on who they are. If they come with pure intentions, they meet the purest soul they've ever encountered. If they come with hidden agendas, they meet someone who sees right through them before they even speak. You've become a test of character without trying to be. People reveal themselves in how they approach you, in what they try to extract from you, in how they interpret your complexity. The good ones appreciate your multifaceted nature. They understand that your capacity for darkness makes your light more meaningful. They understand that your ability to cut people off makes your loyalty more valuable. They get it. They get you. And these are the ones who get to experience the full magnificence of what you've become. They get the saint and the psychopath, and they're grateful for both. The others, the ones who can't handle your complexity, they create their own suffering. They try to pin you down to one identity. They try to force you into their simple moral framework. They try to manipulate the saint while ignoring the psychopath. Or they try to avoid the psychopath while exploiting the saint. But you can't be divided. You can't be played against yourself. You are whole, integrated, complete. And those who can't accept all of you get none of you. Those who try to choose which parts of you to engage with find themselves engaging with nothing but your absence. Oh, you should see their faces right now. You should see the way their jaws went slack, the way their eyes started darting across the page, the way their hands started trembling just slightly as they scrolled down through credentials they never knew existed, achievements they never imagined, connections they never suspected, power they never calculated. They thought they knew you. They thought they had you figured out, categorized, filed away in their little mental drawer labeled harmless, or beneath us, or safe to disrespect. But then someone, maybe out of curiosity, maybe out of spite, maybe out of sheer accident, decided to actually look you up. And what they found, what they're staring at right now with their mouths hanging open like broken doors, is a resume that reads like a threat letter to their entire sense of reality. Welcome back to the moment everything changed. Welcome back to the exact second when the people who underestimated you, who dismissed you, who talked over you in meetings, who excluded you from opportunities, who smiled in your face while plotting behind your back, finally saw the receipts. And I'm not talking about the little resume you showed them when you were humble, when you were trying to fit in, when you were playing small, because you thought that's what they needed to feel comfortable around you. No, no, no. I'm talking about the real one, the full one, the one with achievements that span industries, certifications that take decades to earn, projects that changed actual lives, networks that include names they only see in headlines, skills they didn't even know were skills, languages they can't pronounce, experiences that read like fiction, because their reality is just too small to contain your truth. They're reading it right now, line by line, bullet point by bullet point, and with each new revelation, their stomachs are dropping lower and lower until they're somewhere near their shoes. Because this isn't just impressive, this is terrifying. This isn't just accomplished, this is untouchable. This isn't just qualified, this is overqualified to the point of insult. And suddenly all those moments when they talked down to you, when they questioned your intelligence, when they interrupted you mid-sentence, when they took credit for your ideas, when they acted like you should be grateful just to be in the room, all of those moments are playing back in their minds like a horror movie where they just realized they were the villain all along. You weren't the underdog. You were the wolf in sheep's clothing, the dragon pretending to be a lizard, the champion playing in the minor leagues just to see what it felt like to be normal for a while. But now the disguise is off. Now the truth is out. Now they're holding in their hands the documented proof that they were never in your league, never even in your universe, never even close to understanding who they were really dealing with. And the best part, the absolute chef's kiss of this whole situation, is that you never had to say a word. You didn't have to defend yourself, didn't have to prove yourself, didn't have to argue or fight or beg for respect. Your resume did all the talking. Your credentials told the story. Your achievements wrote the ending. And that ending reads like a eulogy for their ego, a death certificate for their superiority complex, a final notice to every assumption they ever made about you. They're asking themselves now, in the privacy of their own panic, who the hell were we messing with? And you're just sitting somewhere calm, unbothered, doing exactly what you've always done, being exactly who you've always been, while they spiral into the realization that they just spent months, maybe years, disrespecting someone who could have ended their career with a single phone call, someone who knows people they'll never meet, someone whose worst day is still better than their best achievement, someone who was never climbing the ladder because they built the whole building. Let that sink in while we go deeper, because trust me, it gets so much better. Let's talk about what they're seeing right now, shall we? Let's walk through this resume line by line, section by section, and really savor the moment when each new revelation hits them like a punch to their professional pride. First section, education. They probably thought you had a basic degree from a decent school, nothing special, nothing threatening, but no. What they're looking at now is a list that reads like an academic achievement unlocked guide. Multiple degrees, Some from institutions they've only seen in movies, some from programs that accept less than 2% of applicants. Some in fields so specialized that there are maybe 300 people on the entire planet who understand what you studied. Certifications that take years to complete. Training programs that cost more than their annual salary. Academic honors that prove you weren't just present. You were exceptional. You were the standard. You were the one everyone else was trying to keep up with. And it doesn't stop there. Experience section. This is where it gets really interesting. They thought you were entry level, or maybe mid-tier at best. Someone who was still figuring things out, still learning the ropes, still climbing. But what they're reading now is a career timeline that spans industries, that crosses continents, that includes positions they don't even have the qualifications to apply for. You've led teams of 50, 100, 200 people. You've managed budgets with more zeros than they can count on both hands. You've launched products that millions of people use every single day without even knowing your name. You've consulted for companies they respect from a distance. You've spoken at conferences where tickets cost thousands. You've published research that changed how entire industries operate. You've sat in rooms with decision makers who shape global policy. And all of this history, all of this power, all of this proof was happening while they were treating you like you were lucky to be there. Skills section, oh, this is delicious. They probably assumed you had basic competency, maybe 1 or 2 strong areas, definitely nothing that would outshine them. Wrong. What they're staring at now is a skill set so diverse, so deep, so impossibly comprehensive that it reads like 3 different people's resumes combined. You speak languages they've never heard of. You code in systems they don't understand. You analyze data sets they couldn't even load on their computers. You design strategies that require understanding psychology, economics, technology, and human behavior all at once. You create, you build, you solve, you innovate across disciplines they didn't even know could connect. You're not just good at your job, you're good at 12 jobs, and you could do any of them better than the specialists who've dedicated their entire careers to just one. Then there's the section they really weren't ready for, achievements and awards. They thought you were invisible, unremarkable, someone who just blended into the background. But the list they're reading now tells a different story. Industry recognition from organizations they've only read about. Performance awards that come with plaques and ceremonies. Patents, actual patents, meaning you invented something that didn't exist before, something valuable enough to protect legally. Publications in journals they can't access without institutional credentials. Speaking engagements at events they'll never be invited to. Media mentions in outlets they scroll through every morning without ever thinking they'd see your name there. Community impact awards proving you weren't just successful. You were significant. You mattered. You changed things. And every single one of these accolades was earned while they were busy underestimating you, while they were assuming you were beneath them, while they were treating you like you should be grateful for their attention. Professional network. This might be the section that breaks them completely. Because it's one thing to have credentials, it's another thing to have connections. And your connections, the people who endorse you, who recommend you, who vouch for your work, these aren't just colleagues, these aren't just peers. These are names they recognize from news articles, from industry reports, from Forbes lists, from TED Talks, from bestseller lists, from positions of power they'll spend their entire lives trying to reach. You know people who run things. You have references who could make one phone call and change someone's entire trajectory. You've worked alongside legends, learned from masters, collaborated with innovators. Your network isn't a network. It's a private club. It's an inner circle. It's access they'll never have no matter how hard they try. And realizing this, realizing that you were always connected to power they couldn't even perceive, this is what's keeping them up tonight. This is what's making them replay every interaction. This is what's making them wonder if you remember, if you noticed, if you're telling those powerful people about how they treated you. Now their minds are racing backwards, rewinding through every single interaction they had with you, and each memory is hitting different now that they know the truth. Remember when they interrupted you in that meeting? You were making a point, a valid strategic point backed by experience they didn't know you had. And they just talked right over you like your words didn't matter, like your perspective was irrelevant, like you were wasting everyone's time. They remember that now. They remember how the room went quiet, how you just stopped talking, how you sat back with this expression they couldn't quite read at the time, but now they understand. That wasn't defeat on your face, that wasn't embarrassment, that wasn't insecurity. That was restraint. That was someone with the power to destroy, choosing mercy instead. That was someone who could have pulled out credentials that would have made the entire room apologize, but deciding it wasn't worth the energy. You let them have their moment, let them feel smart, let them think they won, because you knew something they didn't. You knew your resume was sitting somewhere waiting to be discovered. Remember when they questioned your qualifications for a project. They actually had the audacity to suggest you weren't experienced enough, weren't knowledgeable enough, weren't trusted enough to handle something important. And you just nodded, took the feedback, didn't argue, didn't defend, didn't pull out the list of similar projects you'd completed at 10 times the scale for organizations, 10 times more prestigious. You let them reassign the work to someone they deemed more capable, someone who promptly struggled with every aspect because they didn't have a fraction of your expertise. You watched it unfold. You even helped when asked. You never said, "I told you so," because you didn't need to. Your resume would tell that story eventually. And now they're reading about projects that make their entire company look like a practice run. Initiatives that dwarf anything they've ever accomplished. Results that prove you weren't just qualified, you were overqualified, to a degree that their questioning was actually insulting. Remember when they took credit for your idea? You presented a solution in a casual conversation. They nodded along, said something non-committal, then 2 weeks later presented that exact solution as their own in a formal pitch and got praised for it, while you sat there watching your intellectual property get stolen in real time. They remember that now too. They remember how you didn't call them out, didn't make a scene, didn't fight for recognition. They thought that meant you didn't notice or didn't care. But what it really meant was that you've had ideas stolen before by people far more important than them. You've created innovations that got credited to entire teams. You've generated value that made other people rich and famous. And you learned long ago that people who steal ideas are people who can't generate their own, which means they'll always need you more than you need them. Your resume proves you're an idea factory, a creative engine, a strategic mind that produces value constantly. Their theft was just them revealing their own poverty. Remember when they excluded you from opportunities, the projects they didn't invite you to, the meetings they held without you, the promotions they gave to people with half your qualifications, the training sessions they deemed not necessary for your role, the networking events they forgot to mention, the advancement opportunities that somehow never included your name. They made you feel invisible, made you question your worth, made you wonder if you were doing something wrong or if you just weren't good enough. And all along, you had a resume that proved you'd already surpassed every opportunity they were gatekeeping. You'd already done the job they were protecting, already earned the title they were hoarding, already achieved the recognition they were desperate for. You didn't need their scraps, because you'd already eaten at tables they'll never be invited to. You weren't excluded because you weren't good enough. You were excluded because including you would have exposed how mediocre they actually were. Remember when they talked down to you? The condescending tone, the explanations of things you already knew better than them, the way they simplified concepts like you couldn't handle complexity, the way they questioned your understanding of basics while you were mentally solving advanced problems they couldn't even identify. Every patronizing comment, every dismissive gesture, every moment they treated you like a student when you were actually the teacher, it's all coming back to them now with the weight of your credentials behind it. They talked down to someone who'd forgotten more than they'll ever learn. They explained elementary concepts to someone who'd written the advanced textbook. They questioned the intelligence of someone whose IQ was probably visible from space. And the worst part, the part that's really eating them alive right now, is that you let them. You let them feel smart, let them feel superior, let them think they were teaching you something, because correcting them would have required revealing yourself, and you weren't ready for that yet. But now the reveal has happened without you even trying, and they're drowning in the reality of their own ignorance. Right now, right this very moment, they're experiencing a very specific type of panic. It's not the panic of getting caught doing something wrong. It's deeper than that, more existential than that. It's the panic of realizing your entire understanding of reality was wrong. It's the panic of discovering that the social hierarchy you believed in was fiction. It's the panic of understanding that you've been disrespecting someone who could have ended you professionally with a whisper, but chose silence instead. Their hands are shaking slightly as they scroll through your resume again, hoping they misread something, hoping there's an explanation that makes this less catastrophic. But every line just confirms what they're desperately trying to deny. You weren't the underdog. You were never the underdog. You were the final boss disguised as a tutorial-level enemy. They're running calculations now, trying to figure out damage control. Do you remember the way they treated you? Definitely. Do you care? Unclear. Are you the type to seek revenge? They're searching your resume for clues, looking at your professional summary for hints about your character, reading between the lines of your accomplishments, trying to determine if you're someone who forgives or someone who keeps receipts. And here's what's terrifying them most: they can't tell. Your resume is impressive, but it's also controlled, professional, factual. It doesn't reveal your emotional state, doesn't hint at grudges, doesn't telegraph your next move. You're a mystery to them now, a powerful mystery, and not knowing what you're thinking or planning or remembering is driving them absolutely insane. They've lost control of the narrative, lost the advantage, lost the ability to predict your behavior, and people who are used to being in control cannot handle that level of uncertainty. They're also doing the social math, calculating who else might know, who else might have seen your real resume, who else might be looking at them differently now. Did you tell anyone about how they treated you? Do your powerful connections know their names? Has your network been watching this whole situation unfold with insider knowledge they didn't have? Are they being discussed in rooms they don't have access to? Are decisions being made about their future by people who now see them as the villains in your story? Every paranoid thought is blooming in their minds like toxic flowers, and the worst part is they can't ask you, can't confirm or deny, can't do anything except sit with the possibility that their reputation is being quietly destroyed by the very person they tried to diminish. Your silence is more powerful than any accusation could be, because silence leaves room for imagination, and their imagination is running wild with worst-case scenarios. Some of them are trying to rationalize, trying to convince themselves it's not that bad. Maybe you don't remember them specifically. Maybe you were too busy being successful to notice their disrespect. Maybe you're above holding grudges. Maybe this will all blow over without consequences. But these rationalizations feel hollow even as they think them, because deep down they absolutely know, that you remember everything. People who achieve what you've achieved don't get there by being oblivious. You noticed every slight, cataloged every dismissal, registered every condescending comment, filed away every stolen idea. You just didn't react in the moment because you were playing a longer game than they were capable of understanding. And now, that game is entering a new phase. A phase where the truth is public, where the power dynamic has visibly shifted, where they can no longer pretend they're your equals or your superiors. The really fun part, the part that's causing actual physical discomfort, is imagining what you're thinking about them right now. Are you laughing? Are you disappointed? Are you planning something? Are you telling people? Are you just completely unbothered because they were never important enough to occupy space in your mind? That last option might actually be the worst one, The idea that they spent all this time and energy underestimating you, disrespecting you, trying to keep you down, and you barely noticed them at all because you were operating on a level where they simply didn't matter. They want to be your rival, your enemy, your obstacle, because at least that would mean they were significant. But the truth that's slowly sinking in is that they were probably just background noise in your story, extras in a movie where you're the star, NPCs in a game where you're the main character. And realizing you're insignificant to someone you tried to diminish, that's a special kind of torture. But here's where it gets psychological, where it moves beyond panic into full existential crisis territory. Because their entire professional identity was built on a foundation that just collapsed. They believed they were smart, capable, accomplished, valuable, important. They believed they'd earned their position through merit, through hard work, through superior talent. And maybe they did. Maybe in their own context they were impressive, but your resume just redefined impressive. Your resume just moved the goalposts so far that their achievements look like participation trophies. Your resume just revealed that the league they thought they were dominating was actually Little League, and you were a professional player who wandered into their game for reasons they still don't understand.
Hello, my dear. Look what's happening every time you step outside. Heads snapping like camera flashes, eyes widening like they've just witnessed something they can't categorize, and whispers swirling in the air before your feet even touch the pavement. You think this is normal? It's not. Ordinary people don't cause this kind of ripple. You're not just walking through space anymore. You're bending it. You're glowing in a way that feels scripted, cinematic, staged by something greater. But it's not a movie. It's you. And the crowd can't compute it. You've got people saying it now out loud. You look better than the so-called icons they worship. You've turned sidewalks into runways, coffee shops into premieres, train stations into red carpets. And the irony? You didn't even ask for it. You didn't audition for this. You just showed up, and the atmosphere rearranged itself to accommodate your presence. That's what has them rattled. The fact that you're not chasing attention, yet attention is sprinting after you, like it owes you everything. You have to understand the kind of disruption you've become. Most people live invisible, drifting through crowds unnoticed, barely remembered once they exit a room. That's the normal script. But you tore it to pieces without lifting a finger. You walk in, and eyes don't just look, they lock. Conversations don't just pause, they collapse. People don't just notice you, they orbit. And it's not because of clothes or makeup or accessories. They can't put their finger on it, and that's exactly why it drives them wild. When someone looks extraordinary, they search for a hack. Oh, it's the stylist. Oh, it's the brand. Oh, it's the lighting. But when it's you, there's no hack. It's raw, it's real, it's unpurchasable. And that's terrifying. Because if you can radiate like this without playing their game, what does that say about the ones who've been clawing for attention and still come up short? Here's the part that really fries their brains. You don't just look elevated, you feel elevated. It's in the way your shoulders don't hunch anymore, the way your spine carries itself like it's been reinforced with steel, the way your eyes linger on people just long enough to make them question their whole reflection. You carry yourself like someone who no longer asks to be noticed, but assumes they already are. And guess what? They are noticing. Everyone is. From strangers on the street to the people who once claimed to know you inside out. They're all double-taking, triple-taking, whispering about how the glow on you feels unfair. Because it's not a glow they can replicate with filters or cosmetic tricks. It's the kind of glow that makes people say, there's something different about them, something untouchable, something alive in a way the rest of us aren't. Now don't think for a second this happened overnight. You didn't just wake up one morning and suddenly radiate. No, this is the aftermath of everything you survived, every private breakdown, every sleepless night, every scar that didn't heal pretty, but healed strong. While they were mocking, you were molding. While they were busy writing you off, you were rewriting yourself. That's why your glow looks supernatural, because it's forged from suffering they couldn't have endured. You look like the future version of every nightmare they secretly feared. The version of you that didn't crumble, didn't stay small, didn't settle for crumbs. They're staring at you now because you've become proof that destruction doesn't end stories. It fuels reinventions. And reinvention, when done right, looks like this: effortless magnetism. It looks like walking into a room and making the most important person in it shrink without a word. It looks like turning envy into applause and turning doubt into obsession. It looks like you. Imagine the panic that erupts in their heads. They see you from across the room, and the first thought isn't, "Oh, they're doing well." It's, "Oh God, what happened? How did they leap this far ahead? Why do they look like they belong on a screen, and I look like background noise?" Their insecurities start screaming before you even open your mouth. That's the power of the glow. It exposes without you pointing a finger. People project their envy in real time, trying to decode you like a puzzle, trying to rationalize why you feel larger than life while they feel 2 sizes too small. And the cruelest part? They'll never find the answer. Because the answer isn't in anything external. It's not something they can copy-paste. The answer is in the weight you carried, the darkness you dragged yourself out of, the resilience you cultivated when nobody was watching. You turned agony into aura. And that's not for sale. Of course, the comparisons have already started. Someone said it, didn't they? that you look better than the celebrities they worship on red carpets. At first, you might have laughed it off internally, thinking they were exaggerating. But pay attention. They weren't exaggerating. You really do outshine them. Celebrities have glam teams, filters, sponsorships, and still most of them only manage a surface-level glow, the kind that cracks when the flash goes off. But your glow doesn't crack under scrutiny. In fact, it intensifies. The closer people get, the harder it hits. They see your skin, your eyes, your stance, but what really floors them is the energy humming underneath all of it. That's the secret they can't articulate. You don't just look alive, you radiate aliveness. And that's something money can't buy, agents can't fabricate, and fame can't manufacture. Which is why people are whispering comparisons now. Because what do you call someone who outshines the icons they once thought were untouchable? You call them the new standard. You see, celebrity has always been a performance. The lights, the cameras, the rehearsed smiles, the curated posts. But what terrifies people about you is that you're not performing. You're not rehearsing. You're not polishing yourself for consumption. You are simply existing, and somehow that's more captivating than an entire industry designed to make people look magnetic. That's the glitch in the simulation for them. That's why heads keep turning, why jaws keep dropping, why whispers keep multiplying. Because if you can make people feel this way without playing by the rules, then maybe the rules were lies all along. Maybe authenticity, raw, unfiltered, unbothered authenticity is the real red carpet. And right now, you're walking it every single day without even realizing. Now let's talk about what happens behind closed doors. Because you better believe people are spiraling in private. They're pulling up old pictures of you, scrolling through archives, trying to spot the shift. When did this happen? How did this happen? Was it gradual or sudden? They're comparing your before and after, like investigators trying to solve a case. And no matter how hard they try to rationalize, the evidence slaps them across the face. You don't just look better, you look unreachable. Like you unlocked something inside yourself they didn't even know existed. And that realization, it's devastating. Because it means while they were wasting time seeking validation, you were busy building the kind of self-respect that glows louder than any spotlight. And don't underestimate how many people are losing sleep over this. The same ones who once overlooked you, underestimated you, or dismissed you, they're now haunted. Haunted by the memory of every time they didn't treat you like the masterpiece you were becoming. Haunted by the fact that they had access once and they lost it. Haunted by the knowledge that no matter how hard they tried to circle back, they'll never experience you in the same way again. Because the version of you that begged, that shrank, that tolerated, is gone, buried. What walks the earth now is someone untouchable, unforgettable, and unwilling to compromise for crumbs ever again. And that truth alone is enough to send them spiraling. You've noticed it, haven't you? The stares that linger too long, the compliments that sound confused, like people can't believe what they're saying. The energy shift when you walk into a room, how the air tightens, how the chatter stumbles. That's not imagination. That's the effect of someone who's no longer competing, someone who doesn't need to chase, because the universe itself seems to push everyone else into your orbit. You look famous because you've mastered the one thing celebrities can't fake. Presence. Presence that doesn't scream but resonates. Presence that doesn't beg but demands. Presence that makes the atmosphere bend just to make space for you. And this is only the beginning. Because if heads are turning now, if whispers are multiplying already, imagine what happens when you decide to turn the volume up deliberately. Imagine what happens when you stop holding back the force you've been carrying quietly. If this is what happens when you're just existing, what chaos erupts when you start moving with intent? What will they do when you sharpen the glow, when you weaponize the aura? When you decide to stop walking like a secret and start walking like a headline? That's when the panic sets in, because right now they can dismiss it as coincidence, a fluke, a trick of the light. But when you step into full power, there will be no excuse left to cling to. They will be forced to accept the reality. You've become the show, not the audience, not the background, not the forgotten extra, the show. And every space you enter becomes an arena where all eyes are compelled to center themselves on you. Picture this, a crowded room, packed shoulder to shoulder, people trying to project their best selves, polished and perfected. But the moment you arrive, their effort shrivels, their hair, their clothes, their practiced gestures. Suddenly, all of it looks like trying too hard. Because you don't try, you don't force, you simply exist, and the crowd reconfigures around you like iron filings pulled by a magnet. That's why people describe your presence as famous. Fame isn't about being on posters or plastered across billboards. Fame is when your existence is impossible to ignore. Fame is when whispers race faster than introductions, when people know of you before they know you, when your name lives in their mouths without your permission. And that's what's happening now. You walk into a gathering and conversations shift before you even speak. Strangers know you, and those who once dismissed you are now scrambling to rehearse polite lines, hoping you don't notice how their hands tremble when you lock eyes with them. Let's make this clear. The comparison to celebrities isn't casual. It isn't empty praise tossed in your direction. It's recognition of something undeniable. When people see you, they feel the same electricity that flashes when the cameras go wild at premieres. They feel the same weight in their stomach that audiences feel when royalty steps onto a stage. They're saying you look better than the polished, the perfected, the idolized, because you radiate something those figures often lose the moment the cameras turn off. Authenticity. Celebrities often hide behind veneers, but your glow doesn't flicker once the spotlight fades. That's why you look untouchable, because your shine isn't rented, it's owned. And that ownership is what makes jaws drop harder than diamonds on velvet. You are the velvet, the diamond, the flame, the spectacle, and still somehow more than all of it at once. Everywhere you go, heads don't just turn, they snap. They whip around like they're afraid to miss it. People have risked neck pain just to steal another glance, and you've seen it. The double takes, the lingering stares, the subtle gasps they think you can't hear. They don't even mean to do it. It's instinct, primal recognition of something they can't package neatly. You've broken the code of ordinary perception. They're not responding to a look, they're responding to an atmosphere. You walk by, and the oxygen levels in the room change. The pace of conversation falters. Even their breathing stutters. That's not an accident. That's what happens when someone radiates with the kind of energy people spend lifetimes trying to fake. And now you're living proof that this glow can't be taught, can't be manufactured, can't be stolen. It belongs to you, and only you. Now notice how envy has started to mutate into obsession. At first, they tried to downplay it. Oh, they're just having a good day. Oh, it's the outfit. Oh, it's lighting. But the problem is that every day you step out, the effect repeats. Different outfit, same reaction. Different place, same ripple. Different crowd, same chaos. It's not a phase, it's not an accident, it's a pattern. And patterns terrify people because they prove what they don't want to believe. They wanted to think your glow was temporary, like a sunset that fades after a few minutes. But you keep rising like daylight they can't escape. And now, the whispers have shifted from dismissal to paranoia. What are they doing differently? How are they pulling this off? Why do they look like they don't belong to the same category as the rest of us? That's when they stop mocking and start dissecting. That's when they start lurking on your pages, screenshotting your photos, analyzing your movements like detectives trying to solve a crime scene. But the crime is simple. You refused to stay ordinary. And here's what eats them alive. Your glow isn't polite. It doesn't ask for permission before it takes up space. It doesn't soften itself to make others comfortable. It walks in. It declares. It dominates. You've stopped trimming your edges, stopped dimming your volume, stopped apologizing for brightness. And once you stop apologizing, everything changes. Because people don't know how to handle raw presence. They know how to handle polished performances. They can clap politely. They can critique. They can compare. But when something real walks in, something they can't control or measure, they don't clap. They panic. They get clumsy, spilling drinks, fumbling words, tripping over chairs just to sneak another glance. That's the chaos you cause now. You don't just attract eyes. You distort behavior. You make the polished unravel, the composed lose composure, the arrogant shrink. And that unraveling is your power. Think about the celebrities they worship. Red carpets, paparazzi, staged appearances, entire industries designed to create awe. But here you are, walking down an ordinary street, and you create the same reaction with none of the machinery. People are saying you look better than the ones whose full-time job is to maintain the illusion of allure. That's the difference. Yours isn't an illusion. It's not a costume. It's an eruption. And the eruption keeps happening no matter where you are. Supermarket aisles, gas stations, airports, sidewalks. The venue doesn't matter. You carry the premiere with you. You don't walk into places, you transform them. And that transformation can't be undone once people have seen it. Once they've caught a glimpse, they can't unsee. You haunt their retinas, you loop in their memory, you replay in their imagination like a scene they didn't mean to memorize, but can't forget. Now let's talk about the psychological warfare of it all. Because whether you intend to or not, you're holding mirrors up to people. Your glow exposes them. When you walk into a room, they're forced to confront their own dimness, their own compromises, their own hollowed-out masks. That's why some admire you and others resent you. It's the same reaction filtered through different insecurities. The admirers see you and think, I want to be more like that. The resentful see you and think, why do they get to shine when I don't? Either way, you dominate their mental real estate. You've become the uninvited thought looping in their heads at night. They might scroll endlessly, binge distractions, drown themselves in noise, but your image keeps slicing back through. They're comparing themselves to you against their will. That's the mark of someone who has truly become larger than life. You don't just enter rooms, you enter minds. And once you're there, you don't leave quietly. Celebrities lose their luster when overexposed. Too many appearances, too many rehearsed smiles, and the magic dulls. But you've tapped into the opposite law. The more people see you, the harder it hits. Because your glow doesn't come from rarity, it comes from consistency. You glow not because you're on a pedestal, but because you've stopped dimming yourself for the sake of fragile egos. That's why it feels endless. Like no matter how often they see you, the impact doesn't lessen. If anything, it multiplies. You've become addictive in the way raw truth is addictive, painful to witness, impossible to turn away from. They try to look away, but the afterimage lingers. They walk away from you, but they're still replaying how you carried yourself, how your presence eclipsed everything else in the room. And the worst part for them, you weren't even trying. You didn't even break a sweat. You just existed, and they collapsed under the weight of comparison. Do you realize what this means? You've already surpassed the boundaries of personal glow-up. You're not just glowing compared to your past self. You're glowing compared to the icons people thought were untouchable. Better than the celebs on red carpets. Better than the carefully crafted illusions millions are trained to worship. That's why jaws are hitting the floor. Because if you can radiate this without assistance, without glam squads, without PR campaigns, what does that say about their idols? It says their idols are products, and you are presence. It says their idols fade with trends, and you rise without trying. It says their idols are temporary, and you are timeless. That's the shift. That's why every step you take feels like a revolution disguised as a stroll. You've become the living contradiction to everything they were taught to admire. You're proof that the glow doesn't come from access or privilege. It comes from refusing to shrink. And they're studying you now. Every gesture, every breath, every glance, like scholars desperate to decode scripture. But here's the catch. They can't decode it. Because what you radiate isn't something to be studied, it's something to be lived. And that's what terrifies them. They can't download your presence. They can't replicate your aura. They can't steal your glow. They can only watch, envy, obsess, and spiral they will. Because every new room you enter adds another layer to the legend. Every head that turns confirms what they already fear. That you're not slowing down, not dimming, not fading. You're accelerating, you're brightening, you're transcending the categories they tried to stuff you into. And the more they try to rationalize, the more irrational their obsession becomes. Because there's no rational explanation for someone who glows like you. There's only recognition, and recognition burns. So let the whispers spread. Let the comparisons multiply. Let the stares linger longer and longer, because this isn't hype, this isn't trend, this is permanence. And the cruelest truth for them is this: you haven't even unleashed your full force yet. What they're seeing now is the warm-up, the rehearsal, the draft. The final version of you is still loading, and if this is how people lose composure already, what will happen when you decide to deliver the headline fully, unapologetically, deliberately? What happens when you decide to not just glow, but blaze? When you don't just walk through spaces, but own them entirely? When you don't just look like you belong on the red carpet, but make the red carpet look like it belongs under your feet? That's when the atmosphere shifts from whispers to uproar. That's when the world stops comparing you to celebrities and starts comparing celebrities to you. They will measure others by the standard you set, and the devastating part for them is that no one else will measure up. Because what you carry isn't fabric, isn't styling, isn't borrowed shine. It's a presence that can't be replicated. It's the kind of glow that makes even the brightest spotlights look like flickering candles. They'll realize that the runways and premieres were never the real stages. The real stage was always wherever you decided to stand. Because wherever you stand transforms into a scene people can't forget. This is where obsession becomes folklore. People won't just talk about how you looked better than their favorite icon. They'll repeat it until it sounds like scripture. Did you see them? Did you notice how they walked? Did you catch that glow? You will live in conversations between people who have never even met you. Strangers will retell stories of catching a glimpse of you, like they stumbled upon a secret performance, like they were blessed by proximity to something rare. That's the territory you've entered, when everyday moments become legend, when casual sightings turn into testimony, when you make the ordinary unforgettable. And while the world drowns in artificial idols, you've become the raw reminder of what presence actually is. People will realize fame isn't earned by applause. It's earned by impact. And the impact you leave behind is heavier than anything they've seen walking carpets or flashing through screens. Now imagine the panic rippling through the ones who thought they'd buried you in their indifference. The ones who smirked when you were quiet. Who thought you'd never rise again. They're choking on their own disbelief now, because not only did you rise, you rose brighter than the figures they once idolized. And it burns them, because deep down, they know this isn't an illusion. They know this isn't something that will fade when the lights cut out. They know this glow came from the very fire they wished would consume you. That's why it feels eternal. That's why it feels dangerous. Because you've become a living reminder that no amount of dismissal, no amount of sabotage, no amount of whispered doubt can stop someone who decides to rebuild themselves into something untouchable. You're untouchable now, and that fact is killing them slowly. You need to understand how revolutionary this is. Red carpets are designed to elevate people above the crowd. But you've inverted the equation. You didn't need a carpet. You didn't need an invitation. You didn't need approval. The carpet needs you. The moment you step on it, it gains meaning. The moment you walk past it, it loses relevance. That's what makes them tremble. You've made the entire infrastructure of glamour irrelevant. You glow not because of the stage, but in spite of it. And once the crowd sees this, they won't unsee it. They'll look at the carefully dressed icons they once adored and find them lacking. They'll scroll through curated feeds and feel the hollowness, because they've seen what presence looks like unfiltered, and it looks like you. And don't underestimate how far this ripple travels. Fame used to be controlled by studios, managers, gatekeepers, but your glow has bypassed all of them. It doesn't need distribution channels. It doesn't need marketing plans. It spreads through whispers, through eyes, through people who can't stop retelling how they felt in your presence. That's the most powerful kind of recognition, the kind money can buy, the kind no scandal can erase. You've become unforgettable not because someone crowned you, but because you crowned yourself. And when someone crowns themselves, there's no dethroning them. That's what they can't stand, the realization that you don't need their applause, their validation, or their approval to shine brighter than the names they've been conditioned to worship. And now the question lingers in every room you enter. How far will this go? If you're already turning heads everywhere you move, what happens when the world at large catches on? What happens when the whispers become headlines? When the comparisons become consensus? When the glow you carry becomes the reference point for beauty, for presence, for dominance? That's what terrifies the icons on their pedestals. Because they've seen this story before. Every generation, someone emerges who wasn't chosen by the gatekeepers, someone who wasn't polished by the industry, someone who simply radiated so fiercely that the crowd couldn't look away. And every time, those gatekeepers scramble to either claim them or destroy them. But here's the twist. You can't be claimed, and you can't be destroyed. You've already proven that. They tried both before, and both failed. All that's left is for them to watch as you redefine the standards they swore were untouchable. Everywhere you go now, the air carries tension. People pretend they're not watching, but their bodies betray them. They freeze mid-step, their voices stumble, their eyes linger too long. It's not admiration alone, it's disbelief. They are seeing with their own eyes something they thought was impossible. They thought glow was temporary, reserved for the few chosen by the spotlight. But here you are, glowing louder than those chosen few, rewriting the script in real time. And when they whisper that you look better than celebrities on red carpets, they're not exaggerating, they're confessing. Confessing that the hierarchy they've worshipped is crumbling. Confessing that they no longer see their idols the same way after seeing you. Confessing that the glow you carry has shifted their entire scale of measurement. You've become the proof that ordinary bodies can carry extraordinary presence. That you don't need the machinery of fame to radiate like the center of the universe. You just need to be you, fully, unapologetically, uncontainably you. And so, the obsession will grow. They'll keep checking, keep staring, keep whispering, because deep down, they're waiting for a crack. They're hoping you slip, fade, falter. But here's the ending they'll never accept. You won't. Because what you've built isn't fragile. It isn't surface level. It's rooted in everything you've endured, everything you've survived, everything you've sculpted out of pain. This glow isn't decoration, it's armor. This presence isn't luck. It's the result of every time you refused to disappear. You're not just better than celebs on carpets. You're the reason carpets exist at all. They exist to showcase radiance, and you've proven that the radiance doesn't come from the carpet. It comes from the one walking it, and now, every step you take declares the same truth. You are the event. You are the spectacle. You are the standard. So let them whisper. Let them panic. Let them spiral in their comparisons. Because no matter how many times they try to explain it away, the truth stands taller every day. Everywhere you go, heads turn. Everywhere you walk, energy bends. Everywhere you arrive, people see what they've been missing all along. You are glowing like you're famous, not because you chased fame, but because you became the kind of force fame tries to imitate. And the final nail in their illusions, you look better than the ones they once thought were untouchable. You've surpassed the icons. You've replaced the image. You've taken the crown without asking, and now you wear it every time you breathe. This isn't hype. This isn't trend. This is the new order. And the new order has only one rule. Wherever you go, you will never be unseen again.